Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Across the Park podcast. I'm delighted to be joined this evening by Dee from the Back of the Nest podcast. Dee, thank you very much for joining us for this review of the Everton Crystal Palace fixture this weekend.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on. Of course, unfortunate for us, but it's a good result. Good result for Everton. They needed a result as well. So, I mean, both of us need a result going into this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just before we get into the review, we didn't manage to catch you, obviously, in the preview. It's always difficult. We're both, well, a lot of people are busy. We have busy lives. But just before I get into reviewing the game, and obviously you point out it was a big result for both sides, what was the general feeling of the Palace fans coming into the game?
It was a massive game for us. It was a massive game because from the outside looking in, it was two struggling sides. But then again, of course, we haven't beat you at Goodison Park since 2014. However, Glasgow did end a not similar record, but another record with Chelsea by stopping the 13-game winning streak for Chelsea. So we thought maybe we could, stop that record in this game. We haven't been terrible this season. We've had our moments. Got result against United, which right now recording this, it doesn't seem like a great result after what Tottenham done to them, but we also got a result against Chelsea. So, sure. It's been against the sides, for example, like Leicester, Brentford, that we've struggled against, and we haven't won a game. So it was a game that we were looking forward to with a full week of training for the first time with this new squad this season, because we haven't been able to with the international break, etc. So yeah, and it didn't quite work out, especially in the second half.
We'll go through the game, obviously, just from our point of view going into the game, before we speak about the game itself. I was not looking forward to it. I agree. I think you have looked decent. I think the results don't quite reflect the performances that you put in so far. And I think you've had a difficult start in terms of the fixtures. I don't think they've been particularly kind to you, but it'll obviously even itself out in time. But I wasn't particularly looking forward to this game. I think there were a good handful of teams that I would have rather have took a Goodison at this moment in time, other than yourselves. And I think the first half an hour, at least, was probably a reflection of where I thought, how I thought the game would play. I thought you were fairly comfortable with everything we threw at you. You were pretty dominant in most areas of the pitch. You were winning most of the battles. How did you feel that the first half went for you guys?
First half for me was the old Palace from last season. I think it was the best performance in a long time. I don't know. I can't remember, but I think you must have had a shot on target. But we're talking.
We didn't do much. Yeah,
exactly. Everton didn't do much. I think defensively we were solid, in possession good, out possession good. Still created a few more chances after the goal as well. One hit the post as from set piece. So there were massive, improvements from Palace. The movement was good from the players as well in possession. So it was very exciting. And it was, everyone was excited and looking forward to see what we can do in the second half. But of course, that did change. That changed massively from Palace's perspective. And, at the end of it, it was a disappointment, which we can discuss the second half, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it, as the cliche goes, it was absolutely a game of two halves. I mean, it's very rare for Everton. I mean, under Sean Dyche, I think it's maybe once or twice before Saturday that we've actually come from behind. Very rarely happens. Sean Dyche is quite infamous of having his style of play and a very, very little in the playbook in terms of a plan B. He made one change at half time in the shape of Jack Harrison coming on, and Jack Harrison made a massive difference from my point of view. Provides a lot more energy and aggression, in possession and out of possession. And for me, noticeably, we look to have gone a lot more direct in that second half. I mean, you look at the two goals as they broke, in kind of the second balls we got onto, but there were two Jordan Pickford long raking balls that it kind of caused you problems. And they both seem to come from your left-hand side in terms of us getting the ball. Obviously, McNeil's cut in and had that shot, but Harrison's managed to get the ball in from that side of the pitch. Is that something of an Achilles heel, or was it just a coincidence on the day?
The left-hand side, Mitchell, he's been solid for us. But I think even when you look at the goals, I'm more looking at Kamada with him giving the ball away and Eze maybe not tracking back after he didn't, win that pass and the ball far post. I think it just was a crazy 10 minutes. I think we kind of threw the game like that. But Everton, you watch Everton more than me. But from what I've seen so far this season, Everton have not been an awful side. I think the problem with Everton being that, they've got in positions where they've took leads, but they haven't had the mentality to keep those leads. It's not like Everton haven't scored no goals. We're leaking like 4 or 5 goals every single game. So we were expecting some kind of, plan B in the second half or some kind of approach where it could cause us more trouble. And that's what happened. And we got exposed once again in midfield, which is, it falls down to Kamada, who is a new signing who should be playing as a number 10, because I don't think...
he's a lightweight, isn't he?
A lot of Palace fans do say defensively, when you're playing in a 2-man midfield and one of the midfielders cannot defend, you just get outrun, and we just got outrun. And that's why, he did get subbed off so early into the second half. And, you look at Glasner, look at what happened after we conceded the second goal, and you have to give credit to Everton because we didn't create that many chances. It might look like in stats in terms of shots, but there weren't any dangerous chances. We kind of looked lost, and that's when you give credit to Everton because they are known for being, a good defensive side in general. I know it hasn't always been the case under Dash. Most recent, maybe because of losing some of those leads, but Everton should be known for that under Dash anyways, and we saw that. But with Palace, we just lost our heads after that 10 minutes. Well, it was less than 10 minutes, to be fair.
It was definitely. Probably 8 minutes if you include the stoppages,
Of course, for you, it was a great result, but from Palace's perspective, it was embarrassing. I think the players should be looking at themselves, as well as the manager. The manager can, but for me, why as a manager would he change anything at halftime after seeing what you saw? I think we were good. We were dominant. We created chances. We didn't concede that many chances. And the way, Everton, for the first time in the game, they kind of said, all right, you know what? We're going to take the game onto them. But we didn't have an answer. We just folded. And that's, for me, that, you look at the players in that regards to how quickly we folded. But, I still have, for example, hopes of Palace looking forward. I know we haven't won a game in 6 games, but we haven't been terrible. We have had moments, and the Everton game after 4 weeks of training for the first time this season with the squad, it was, we saw improvements of that, but the contrast from the first half to the second half was crazy. But then again, maybe we need this to give us a reality check of, you know what, just wake up and make sure you perform for 9 minutes consistently. At Goodison Park, I know it's going to be the end of it now because, you lot are moving to a new ground. It just didn't work out for us. So I'm happy in a way that you got your new stadium. Let's see how the record holds there. But I think it was since 2014 we've last beat Everton at Goodison Park. So, going into the game, there was a bit of optimism, especially from some, Palace fans with, you lot struggling as well. But that record still remained. And thankfully, at Goodison Park anyways, it's a fresh start next season if both teams do end up staying up in the Premier League.
That's it, isn't it? I mean, you make some good points around the fact that, and again, it'll be interesting how Everton fans take it, because a lot of the feeling around the club was severe negativity towards the manager in relation to the results, the performances. But that said, as you pointed out, we have been in front in a couple of games by 2 goals. It's been throwing leads away. It's been uncharacteristic, poor defending. However, the biggest difference for us over, Saturday, I'm not sure you realise this, was the return of Jared Brandtwaite in place of Michael Keane. I mean, it's night and day. Michael Keane has been dreadful for quite some time, not just this season. Jared Brandtwaite is a top player. I mean, a player that a lot of Everton fans felt was hard done by not being in the England squad in the summer, but I think it was probably to our benefit in terms of him coming back now from an injury and being fresh. How did you, from a Palace perspective, how did you feel Everton what do you think Everton look like to you? I mean, obviously you had that 8 or 9 minutes, and you just said, it's going to be it's still going to be a tough season to both sides. Do Everton look like a team that I guess are still going to be battling down there?
It kind of, I mean, Jared Branthwaite coming back is massive. He is massive, and you saw it in the Palace game, and maybe that's what you've been missing in some of those defeats, or even against Leicester. You start the game good, then afterwards ended up still conceding a goal, getting a draw. Maybe he could be the difference maker, and he should be the difference maker. That's why he's regarded very high at Everton, around 70 to 80 million pounds. I don't know how much you value him, but that's the figures I've heard. So he's a very good footballer. But for Everton, I guess it just depends on, you have been scoring goals. McNeil has been performed very good so far this season.
I'm not sure I'll keep that up, by the way.
And that's the question. So this is where it comes down to, where I think defensively you should be solid all season long. But with Sean Dyche, what it comes down to is maybe his tactics going forward. Right now, at the start of the season, going forward hasn't been your concern. Like, you've been fine going forward. Maybe you might think differently, but in terms of the goals, actually,
it's a fair.
You have scored goals. It hasn't been the goals. It's been defensive. So, I think for however long McNeil and Ndaya can keep it up with, then you will continue. You will win games because you got the right formula. You got attackers who are getting goals or assists. And you got defenders who will be able to, I know you didn't keep a clean sheet against Palace, but they're capable of keeping clean sheets in the Premier League. You can do that with their defense, especially with Dash there. Maybe with your fullbacks, there's questions there. I think that is your main weakness, but I think Everton can get results. For me right now, it's hard to say, Everton will finish top 10. Everton will finish, aim higher than that, or Everton will finish mid-table, or it will be fine relegation. It really for me, if you want me to be honest, it really depends on how long those attackers can stay on form, because we've seen Dwight McNeil in the Premier League and he has had good moments, for example, with Burnley as well. But Dwight McNeil, you're not really expecting him to perform at the level he's performing right now for 38 games. Then you look at the likes of maybe Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Can he perform a bit better? Can he get a few more goals? If he can, if McNeil drops off, then you should still be fine. But these are some of the things that we will see as the season goes on. But Everton should stay up. Going into next season, you have got enough players in that squad. It just really depends on that attack. For me, the biggest concern with Everton is the attack and who will come in for those players if they don't perform. I think Jack Harrison's solid player. I think on his day he can be. I think you got very good players, but they just have to be consistent throughout the season. And you've started great going, forward, especially with McNeil. Let's just see how long that can keep up. But I don't know, maybe for you, what's your expectations? I think Everton mid-table, staying up.
I mean, listen, from my perspective, I think being a little bit more comfortable than we have been in the last few seasons will probably satisfy the fans this season. The style of football is starting to become pretty difficult to observe at times. I mean, you've seen some similar with Roy Hodgson. You can get results and it's pleasing to the fans, but it always feels as though, from my perspective and certainly a lot of fans' perspective, that Sean Dyche is keen to put the fans back in the place, as if to say this is where you belong, and he almost relishes the fact that Everton are considered to be relegation candidates, and to him that means the expectations are low. But then you get a manager in, or a coach like Glasner, who suddenly starts to expect more from the players and more from the team, takes the team to places and tries to attack the opposition as opposed to sitting there and waiting to be defeated. And I think, I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying at this moment in time I would advocate sacking Sean Dyche, but I think if we can get to the end of the season, it probably needs a fresh pair of eyes and someone with a bit more positivity in the dugout. And I think you've probably seen the benefit of that. But while we are as I move on to you guys, obviously Oliver Glasner has a superb effect on the team last season. And again, the performances have suggested that will come. What has been the difference so far this season? What has it been the difference between you not getting the 3 points and I guess the way you finished last season?
The difference has been quite a few things. So we start off with, it dates back to pre-season, where because of the Euros, even though some of these players didn't play as much in the Euros, well, Gahey did. We had Gahey, Wharton, Eze, and Dean Henderson coming back 2 weeks before the season started, essentially. Then we had Daniel Munoz and Jefferson Lerma, who also started yesterday, coming back 2 weeks or a week before the season started with the Copa America. Mateta, with the Olympics, he came back 3 days before Brentford. And Chris Richards, similar as well. So we had a disrupted preseason. All right, cool. We move on from preseason now. With the outgoings, we sold Joachim Anderson, Jordan Ayew, for example. The replacements, they weren't in the football club till deadline day. So basically early September, we didn't have the new squad. And since then, we haven't been able to, because of the Leicester game falling right before international break. Some of the players like Munoz, etc., they came back on a Thursday, right before the game. So we haven't even had a full week of training up until this game. So that's why when I was watching the first half, I was like, finally,
there we go.
Speaking about this, we're actually playing some good football. So we've had a very disrupted start of the campaign. We've got a lot of new players. We lost Elise as well. Brought in Nketiah, Kamada, Trevor Chalobah, he hasn't played yet. So we have signed players, and we're just trying to figure it out right now. For me, I'm not hitting the panic button just yet, and I don't think a lot of Palace fans are. But of course, it's a results business. We do need to get results, and we have got some difficult games coming up. But I've seen signs this season, even before the Everton game, that we are not that far off in terms of winning games. I haven't seen dreadful results under Glasner. It hasn't been great, the results. We haven't won a game. How can it be great? But
there's not been a lot. There's not been a lot in the defeats, though. There's not been a lot in the defeats.
Yesterday, you saw it. For example, if we take the first half performance and perform a bit more consistently and keep our heads in the game, especially in second half, for example, and carry that into the second half, then that is not a bad side. That is a side, that could score more goals and won't concede as much. Well, we lost our heads, and the players, spoke about that as well. And credit to Everton as well for attacking us. You lot had to do what you had to do. For Palace, we had to respond by saying, all right, you're being more direct. Let's try survive this wave and take the crowd out of the game in the first 10 minutes. Because of course, after that first half performance, they're actually going to get onto the players. You made a sub as well. But some of these players, they just couldn't get up to the standards. And that's the most frustrating thing. So, I'm not panicking just yet. We've had a disruptive start to the season. We do need results. That's 100% expected. But I think it will eventually click. We do need to make one or two changes. For me, I don't know what you thought about Mateta yesterday. There's a lot of hype around him, a lot of praise around him. Even this summer, he was linked with Villa. But at times, he's just not involved in the game. He's just not involved.
For me, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you then.
No,
for me, in terms of Mateta, I was a little bit surprised over the hype because, again, with respect, he had a phenomenal purple patch when Glasner come in. But you'll have seen him for 18 months, 2 years before that. I'm not sure how long you had him before that. I think we were linked to take him on loan in the January window before Glasner come in. So, the talk about him to go from where he was to being linked, as you say, with Villa and various other clubs and being spoke about in the same sentence as Eze and Elise was crazy to me. However, look, he's still a young. I was actually surprised how young he was when
he doesn't look young.
Yeah, he doesn't look young, no. But listen, I think in fairness, I think he needs to show a little bit more consistency. I think as you said, then I think his build-up play at times leaves a lot to be desired. He's obviously a decent finisher and he gets in the right place at the right time. But I think you probably could ask for a little bit more from him, off the ball and in terms of bringing other players into it. But I was going to ask you one more big question. I guess the next time we meet, which hopefully we'll have a chat before the next time we play at Selhurst Park, where would you expect this Crystal Palace side to be, given, as you say, all the disruption, given the fact that at some point you're going to kick on? Where would you like or where would you expect this Palace side to be?
I expect this Palace side to be fighting for top 10. That's an expectation this season. So maybe 12, 13, depending on where we are at that point. I don't even know when we're facing you next. I don't know if
you're going to check that now. I'll let you talk and I'll check that out now.
But I expect this Palace side, of course, to finally start winning a few more games, get things going, and
February
for that and finish
15th of February.
So around then, top 10 should be the aim. Look, it's a long season. It is a long season. Even last season, under Roy Hodgson, it was dreadful, but we still somehow managed to finish in the top 10, which was a surprise to a lot of people because we were talking 16th, 17th. So this manager has proven that he can do it. In the Premier League, of course, he needs a bit more time. But players need to step up as well. Eze needs to step up, for example. Yesterday wasn't.
I was going to ask you about him. He was a bit in and out of the game yesterday. Again, as you touched on before, he gave the ball away at times quite a bit, which I guess you can get that with players like Eze. Is he a player for you who still looks a little bit jaded from the long summer and maybe has needed a little bit of a rest, or is that sometimes what you get with Eze?
That's the thing with Eze. A lot of people, it's understandable because I don't expect a lot of people to watch Palace, but he does have these moments where he does kind of fade away or try to play easy. For me, yesterday was very frustrating. He tries to play the game at his own pace, sitting a bit deeper, just doing the easy thing. Whereas we need to get a goal, we need to attack, and it's annoying. But Eze under Elise is a different Eze by himself.
I was going to say, yeah.
That's the thing. That's always been that's pretty much been the case, anyways. Elise, though, for me, and not just me, I think if you watch Elise, you understand even what he's doing. He's just one level above, Eze. If we don't have Eze in the side, I can still rely on Elise if it was at Palace to perform. Yeah. Whereas with Eze, we did need Elise a lot of the time. But this is also a good moment for him to prove himself because you are right. He hasn't been playing at the levels, and a lot of Palace fans are now noticing that as well in terms of the way he should be taking the games and trying to be that creative spark. But as I said, we do need a bit more rotation. For me, Mateta needs to, get dropped to the bench. Ismail Assar, he didn't do much yesterday, but every time he comes on, in majority,
I like Ismail Assar.
Yeah,
I like Ismail Assar a lot.
So he can pick up the ball and he can run. Of course, he's not Elise like player, but he's a player on the right hand side. Nketiah is not number 10. I would like to see Nketiah. I think Nketiah didn't have a bad. He won a few fouls, tried to do the link up play, etc. But he hasn't played up front. I'd rather Nketiah play up front, so it's closer to Eze, than opposite flank, and then also have Ismail Assar there to go a bit more direct. So he does need to make a few changes as a manager. But yeah, Eze is one of those players where I'm looking like you're meant to be the star of the team. You're meant to be linked to top clubs. Let's prove yourself. You're meant to if you want to play for the likes of City, etc. Jack Grealish, we saw it at Villa, for example. He would try take the game by himself and win those games. And I'm not saying Eze doesn't try to do that, but even in games like yesterday, and not even just yesterday's game against United, he had a few massive chances he didn't take, for example. So he hasn't had the greatest start to the season, maybe because he's still adjusting to the players around him, some new players, especially with Nketiah alongside him. But as a star of this team, as a player who's been linked for 68 million pounds, you need to prove that as well. Otherwise, and of course, no one's going to pay that amount of money for the release clause. Sorry, can you hear me?
Sorry, D. I think you lost you for a moment there.
Sorry. Yeah, I've literally
I got most of the Eze stuff. To be fair, I think the only thing I was going to ask on top of that really is, you mentioned before about a bit of a wake up call. Maybe Eze coming out to the side, whether it's in the next game or the game after, maybe he needs one of them wake up calls because I think it's one of them. As you say, he's had a lot of praise from a lot of sections of the media. Obviously, he was a player in the Euros that had an impact at times when he came on. And as you mentioned, I guess I certainly don't watch as many Palace games as maybe a cousin. And I think the perception generally is that Eze's the main man, and get the ball to him and he'll make things happen. But yeah, he did seem to me yesterday a little bit out of sorts. And again, I think I don't know if it's, as you say, the the impact of Elise coming out of it, whether it's a change of position, whether it's the players around him. But definitely, I think you need more from him.
Yeah, we do, and he needs to do more if he wants to join a big club as well. As I was saying, 60 to 68 million pounds is not cheap, but clubs are not going to pay that if you don't, step up to that level. I mentioned Grealish as an example as well. For example, at Villa, reason why he got that move to City is because he done at Villa. He was the main man. He would get the goals. He'll get the assists. He'll carry the team, and then he got to move to City. So yeah, Eze needs to do similar. And I don't know if he'll get dropped because it's the alternative down the left. We don't really have much right now. Francois is a player that we signed who was out injured, who's been out injured, and he might be coming back. Well, he's back training now. He wasn't in the squad against Everton because Glasner thought it was a bit too soon. He's been out for 6 months, but maybe down the line he could be the player. But Eze needs to prove himself. We've got a massive game against Liverpool next. Of course, you would love for us to get a result. Maybe you might not. I don't know. Depends.
No, I absolutely would. Yeah,
exactly. So, and that's a chance to prove himself. It's an early kickoff. A lot of people will, be watching that game, and it's time for Eze to say, you know what, I need to score these chances. I need to create chances because he's had these chances this season. He just hasn't took them. And yesterday is about creating chances. He just didn't take hold of the game, which for a player that's been, that we expect a lot from and that he expects a lot from, he has to perform. He has to perform. The expectations are there, and he just didn't yesterday.
Well, believe me, we'll absolutely be rooting for you. I've no doubts about that next week, T. We'll be tuning in for 12:30, and we'll be right behind you. And hopefully Eze does turn up, and you can turn them over and get your first 3 points of the season. But T, listen, it's been a long day. I know you were recording for a couple of hours, I think, before you come on. So really appreciate your time. Again, I hope we can get you on, or you can get us on. I think we need to return the favour when we come down to Selhurst Park, and I'm pretty sure that it'll be a lot higher up in the table when we meet them. But again, thanks so much, mate. Commiserations on this occasion. Best of luck for the rest of the season until we play on the 15th of February. And I'll catch you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Hopefully, we'll do a preview next time as well. But thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, one last thing. I obviously mentioned it at the start. For any of the Evertonians who are looking to catch a little bit more of Palace, maybe you're an opposing fan who's looking to, again, check up on Eze, as we spoke about a little bit. It's Back of the Nest podcast. They are tagged in the description below and in the title of the podcast, so please check them out. Top man D, I'll speak to you soon, mate.
Thank
Cheers.
You.